Hey friends, happy Pride Month. If you're in the Austin area, I would love to have you celebrate with me for my upcoming donation Pilates mat class benefiting Out Youth. Out Youth is a wonderful organization. They have been serving the LGBTQ plus community, youth, young adults, and their families across Central Texas for 30 years. Please join me this Wednesday, June 23rd from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. at Myowell. They make those delicious prebiotic bubbly sodas. The location is at 2609 East Cesar Chavez Street. Please bring your own mat and let's celebrate Pride Month together. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Yoga and Podcast. I am your host, Ashley Weber, a yoga and Pilates teacher who is living and learning every day here in the beautiful Austin, Texas. And I am oh so curious about all things yoga and. If this is your first time joining us, a big warm welcome to you. This show is about yoga and everything. Yoga and Buddhism, yoga and the sensitive soul, yoga and rock climbing. You get the picture. Today, we will complete this two-part series, Yoga and Cosmology, with the wonderful Rey Cardenas. He is the owner of Practice Yoga Austin and previous guest on the show. Check out episode number 64, Yoga and Symbolism, when you get the chance. Today, we will review a bit from last week on the Zodiacal influences of the body and then dive deeper into cosmology, the study of the cosmos in relationship to yoga. Please check out last week's episode before you enjoy this one when you get the chance. It'll make more sense, I promise. I know you're going to love this episode just as much as I did. Now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, y'all.
There are zodiacal forces that are associated with the body as well. So the stomach is associated with Virgo.
I know that one because I am ruled by my stomach.
Oh, there you go. Are you Virgo?
Yeah, guilty.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
I'm curious about the zodiac system and how it relates to the organs or to the body or just cosmology in general. So would you care to elaborate more on that subject?
Yeah, so basically we have the planets, right? Well, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about the planets, then we segue into the zodiac.
Yeah.
That works. So the planets, they're called the seven spheres, and they reflect energies associated with the law of seven. And the law of seven is also called the law of evolution. And so anytime that there's an evolutionary process taking place, you could say that there are 7 steps involved. And we see the number 7 reflected in so many things, like the rainbow, the musical scale,
Actually,
these planets, the visible planets, the days of the week, the number of continents on the planet. There's 7 all throughout all the mythologies. There's like the 7 I statements of Christ. There's the 7 lands in the Vedas, and there's the number 7's everywhere, and it reflects this law of progress. And the way that I like to look at it is like through the musical scale. The notes do, re, and mi, they have the same interval of space in between. If you were to like pull up a string, a monochord, and you plot the notes of the musical scale on that string, there would be an equal distance of space between do, re, and mi. And then in between mi and fa, there's like half the amount of space. So it's a smaller interval to squeeze through. So when you reach that, when you're going from the 3rd step of evolution to the 4th step, it's a little bit of a tighter squeeze, so you need a boost. And sometimes that boost is called grace, or sometimes it's called third force or first conscious shock, but you need some sort of boost to get to that next step. And so that is like in the chakras. The first three chakras are associated with the physical body, and they happen automatically. And then if you want to get up to that fourth chakra consciousness, which is, the heart consciousness, which is being able to be present, being able to transcend whatever circumstances are acting upon you. Because if you aren't able to come into the present moment, you can't separate yourself from those forces, and you are just being compelled. You're kind of acting automatically, unconsciously, based on what's happening to you. But if you can, through grace and effort and community, get to that fourth state, you come into the ability to be present, and then you get to move on and do the higher level challenges. But so I just wanted to talk about the law of seven, because the planets reflect that law. And when all those energies are firing together, we kind of hear this divine harmony, this harmonious sound. It's called the music of the spheres. So that's the law of seven. And so that kind of reflects essence, or the just force of Shakti that animates the elements. And then when we get into the zodiac, we're talking about the law of 12, and zodiac is more oriented towards nature, right? It's more like so it's elements, right? Because there's like fire signs and water signs and earth signs, and so the zodiac is 4 elements reflected in the 3 aspects of the human being, and those 3 aspects are physical body, soul, which is kind of like the feeling quality of the heart, and spirit, which is kind of like the mind. Or excuse me, physical body, soul, spirit, across the 4 elements. 3 times 4 is that you get the 12 zodiac.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then the qualities associated with the zodiac reflect in each body part. We can go up the body and talk about that if you want to.
Yes, I know nothing about this, so this is exciting too. I mean, I did know Virgo was associated with stomach, but that's just because I am. But I would like to learn all the body parts.
Yeah, and for me, it's really helpful because when I think about, you're trying to remember someone's zodiac, or what's the next zodiac that comes after this one, if you have it associated with the body parts, it makes it really easy because it's in order.
So what are the body parts associated with the zodiac specifically?
Yeah, so let's go from the bottom to the top, and this is a good exercise, because if you know the energies of the zodiac, you can kind of cultivate those energies within your physical body based on the parts of your body that are associated with it, and you could tend to those qualities associated with the zodiac by associating with those parts of your body. So like Pisces is the feet, and you can remember that because this Pisces, they fish kind of look like feet. The Pisces are the 2 fish, and you've got your 2 feet, and I will say this too, because I just talking about Pisces made me think about this, and it is relevant to like my own evolution. Like when I got into yoga, it was about the physical aspect, being in my body, and I was really just inspired by that. And then now I'm kind of getting into this more conceptual, symbolic stuff. And that corresponds with the transition between the Piscean age, which is the age that we're exiting out of. Some people say that we're already out of it, and some people say that we're in the process of transitioning out of it, but we're at the end of the Piscean age. And Pisces are the fish that hide in the water. And the water, well, we're transitioning into the age of Aquarius, which is the water bringer. So going from the fish hiding in the water, don't know that they're in the water at all. And they're the two opposites. They're the yin and the yang swimming in the water. So this is like associated, the Piscean age was associated with the cultivation of the scientific method and scientific rationality, dealing in the realm of opposites. And transforming matter, appropriating matter into ways that we want to use it. And then we're going into the age of the water bringer, and water is the capacity for spiritual reflection, because like, you know, the water in the still lake reflects the sky, and the sky is associated with the spirit and reflect. So to me, that means that we are in the process, the impetus of this next age is going to be to regain spiritual perception in an intuitive way, not in like a forceful, dogmatic, external way. So that's what the age of the water bringer is all about. And that brings us to the next sign, which is Aquarius, which is the ankles. And the way I remember Aquarius and ankles, besides them both kind of starting with A, is that the ankles are the part of our body that takes the horizontal domain of the fish and brings it into the vertical. And the vertical is also considered the spiritual domain. It's the eternal now. It's like the vertical arm of the cross. And so the ankles reflect that in the body. Now we're going up, you know? And so the next sign after Aquarius is Capricorn. And so that's the knees. That's the earth element of the physical body. And I just think about that as I need to go deeper and meditate on Capricorn as the knees. You know, I just remember the kneecaps are very hard, strong, you know, the bones are exactly kind of like the horns of a goat. Exactly. So, and then the next one is Sagittarius, is the thighs, the quadriceps, and that's the fire sign. And, you know, when you're doing yoga poses, the thighs tend to burn. So that's one way to remember that. And the Sagittarius, the fire sign associated with the physical body, is it kind of relates to the struggle for physical existence, right? And the sacrifice that it takes to make it keep going. And fire is associated with sacrifice. And then next we have Libra, which is, you know, the balance. And so you can see, like, where's your center of gravity? Where's your balance at? It's in your hips and your pelvis. So it's the pelvis right there, with the legs being like the two scales. Pelvis is Libra. Sex organs, Scorpio, because they give the life, which creates the potential for death, because once you're alive, you die. And Scorpion, that's the sting of death, you know, that you realize from being alive. And then we have Virgo as a belly. And I think that, you know, is like the womb, the divine feminine, the potential. And then after Virgo, is it what is it? What's after
Leo,
Virgo?
the heart?
Leo, yeah, that's right. Leo's the heart, the lion. You can remember that from the sun, you know, and the lion's mane. The lion looks like the sun. That's why the lion's the king of the jungle, even though he's not like the biggest, best fighter. He's not like the tiger's bigger than the lion, you know, and arguably maybe a little bit better at combat, could be called the king, but the lion's got that majestic mane that looks like the sun. So yeah, that's Leo, the sun, and the heart is the sun of our body. And then the protector, Cancer, the crab shell, you know, that's the chest plate and the rib cage that protects all of the organs of the blood system. And then we've got Gemini as the shoulders and the arms, and that's the duality of left and right, and cooperation and unity is the highest striving of Gemini. And then for your throat, you've got Taurus, which is interesting. Like, one of the ways that I remember that is your windpipe is like an inverted, alive and moist horn.
Oh, and the bull. I
Yeah,
see.
exactly. And so when you used to blow into the horn and it would make the sound. So we've
Yeah.
got that inside of us. Our windpipe is just a horn that is alive and fluid. Yeah. So that's how I remember that one. And then Aries is the top of the head. And that's, the ram head button. And Aries, you can think about it as like ram's button heads. And that's why like during the age of Aries, during the Aryan age, there was a lot of fighting and war. But the highest aspect of Aries is the sacrificial lamb,
Oh.
sacrificing yourself. So yeah. So that's how the zodiac manifests in the body. And it's worth spending a little time on that one, just
Yeah.
thinking about those things and learning about the energies associated with those signs if you don't know them already. But those signs, the zodiac, it's associated with personality, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, what's your oh yeah, you're a Virgo, I'm a Cancer, I'm very sensitive, blah blah blah. But uh, did you know that an esoteric understanding of like Jesus and the 12 disciples represent the 12 signs of the zodiac in Gnostic and esoteric Christianity. And so when Jesus is washing the disciples' feet, that the meaning of that story is that the divine being, the highest cosmic being, again, according to Christianity, the Christ, is thanking the the spirits of personality, because they are the means by which the personality is the means by which we find transcendence. It's the
Oh.
vehicle for ascending our consciousness. And so that's like the divine one thanking the 12 for being the means by which human beings can elevate.
Wow. No, I had no idea that there was an association. That's wild.
I didn't know that for the longest time either, but you know, they I feel like there's a shallow understanding of the meaning of religious teachings in general that I experienced as a child that turned me off to all of
Oh,
it. So I did
totally.
kind of a full 180. Yeah, I was turned off to all of it, and I kind of just was creating my own meaning and just acting intuitively, but with a lot of resentment towards traditional teachings. And it
Mhm.
got me in a bit of trouble in my own life.
Mm.
And I just somehow, through an act of grace, you know, realized that instead of resenting and rejecting these teachings, I should try to understand them all on a deeper level, so that instead of being resentful, I could be curious and see what value is there and what's relevant to me. So um, it's been nice. I've been seeking to understand the thread of truth that weaves through all religions and spiritual teachings, and it's definitely there. And there's a lot of people that are inspired by learning more about that is what I'm realizing, because there's a lot of
Oh, just noting that the parallel of the 12 disciples and the 12 zodiac. I mean, that's really really interesting. Like, and it does feel like there is a lot more to all that, and that's really exciting.
yeah. So in like religions, the way I see them now is like people tend to say like they'll try to discredit a religion because they'll say, well, these previous religions had that same story in a different way. And my understanding is that religions are a reflection of cosmic patterns presented in a way that is relevant to the new and evolving consciousness of the people that are perceiving the patterns. And
Mm,
so the fact that there are correspondences between different religions doesn't discredit any religion, it gives credence to the cosmic pattern.
I see.
Hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I never would have thought of it like that. I'm curious about your views on maybe people through the lens of science having a ceiling on what we can know. What do you have to say to that?
I think that, well, we've grown up at like the height of the scientific rational age, or maybe not the height, but we're at the culmination point. And I feel like we're reaching an edge, and we're starting to understand that science performs a function and serves us in a certain type of way. It enables us to put matter at our service, right? So we science is all about, you take matter and you destroy it basically and reconfigure it. Like, for example, in the example, like the steam engine is that, and so now we get to be transported across space by reconfiguring, water molecules making steam. So science serves a purpose. It's inherently objective if you're doing it right. And so what that means is the meaning is taken out. And so if we are like using science to guide our lives, then we're going to feel a void in the realm of meaning, because that aspect is taken out of the equation. And so we're starting to understand that, hey, we need that meaning. We need that qualitative aspect. Science deals with things that you can weigh, number, and measure. And so much of life, as you know, cannot be weighed, numbered, or measured. The best things in life are qualitative, subjective. And so how do we communicate about that thing, about those things? How do we, and we do that through, I would say, story and but also like elevating your consciousness to be able to perceive the meaning in things, in symbols and stories, on the deepest level that you possibly can. And so the way that you do that is you unite your thinking, feeling, and willing to become fully present, and then you meditate on something. And you to meditate on something is to allow, like, let's say I was meditating on, I'm holding a crystal, and I'm not gonna be able to see this, but if I were to meditate on this crystal, how do you meditate on a crystal? Well, you come into a state of unity with your thinking, feeling, and willing, and you consciously let the crystal act upon you. That being as opposed to acting upon the crystal myself, I'm letting the crystal act upon me. That's how you meditate. And say, whoa, what is this thing, and you can, and since our our way to deeper understanding tends to be more rational, meditative reading is a really good way to elevate your consciousness. Coming into a state of full presence and reading a book about this sort of thing, about esoteric cosmology. There's a lot of stuff out there. I just got a book called Practical Astrology by Samael Onwayor. He's a Gnostic teacher from Bogota, Colombia, from the 1950s. He wrote some interesting stuff. I'm just now dabbling in him, but I got that book the other day. I've been looking at it, and it's pretty cool. So it's worth checking out.
That's super cool. I'll have to check that out. I feel like you mentioning the crystal is like like just being with the crystal. It sounds like there has to be an element of surrender. Like you can't force anything to happen. You just have to be with the crystal and just kind of.
Yeah, and that's going to be like, and that's hard to do. But literally, so like I'm holding this crystal, and it has these neat like divots where I can put my fingers in it, and it feels like they're like meant to be there. And so I just kind of let that. So I'm like, wow, like that creates a certain feeling inside of me that is, I would say, it's a high quality vibration, because it's a beautiful, clear quartz crystal that I'm holding. And like a lot of people say crystals are alive, and they reflect this certain work of the spiritual hierarchy, these super beings that are super high up on the spiritual hierarchy, called the thrones, which are like I said, hierarchical beings that sacrificed themselves long ago, an aspect of themselves, to create the warmth that gathered up physical matter, that enabled us to have a physical body, to experience individualized consciousness. So anyway, holding a crystal, like if you are inspired by this sort of thing and study up on it, it could transform, you know, a meaningless translucent rock into something with like deep meaning that inspires you to behave and act with a certain sense of gratitude. Because if it's all meaningless, if we're just some random clumps of cells that, and then consciousness just happened to arise from this random occurrence, then there's no point in really doing anything. It's pointless, it's meaningless. But we definitely don't act like it is. We act like there's an order, and there's good and bad, and there's meaning, and so, and that changes on depending on the scale of consciousness that we're on. Like for example, I don't know, did we talk about this last time about evil?
No, we didn't. No.
So there's things that are like inherently evil that I won't, like, you know, we don't have to point them out to lower the vibe or anything, but you can think of things, you're like, oh, that's evil, you know? And then on another level, you can zoom out, like, so we can say there's good and evil in geocentric consciousness, like here on Earth, these us human beings with physical bodies in the realm of opposites experience good and evil, just like we experience day and night. Now, if we were zoomed out, if we were sun beings, like if we were on the sun is light all the time, it's non-dual. So on that scale, this is a teaching called scale. Depending on what scale you're on, there's certain laws that exist. And so on that scale, that's true non-duality, where evil is actually a force that motivates and refines the good, and good couldn't exist without it. And so therefore, in a sense, they're on that scale, they're the same. We're not on that scale. I would say there is still, like, you know, we aren't on the sun, we're on the earth, but you can think about it in a way that, like, that says, if you ever are being like, you're overwhelmed by the fact that there's evil things happening in the world, if you can access this heliocentric consciousness and you say, well, this is actually furthering the good in the long run, and so I'm not going to let this overwhelm me and bring me down and cause me to feel depressed and mess up my life. It kind of reminds me, so I'm reading this Norse mythology book with my son, and it's been great, but we're at this part where Odin goes to see these three oracles. It's these three women, and they basically show him that there's about to be a war between the gods and the giants. And so he travels to this well, the well of wisdom, and he sacrifices his right eye to drink from the well of wisdom. That's the price that he has to pay. And so he does it. He drinks from the well of wisdom, and it shows him that the way that he's like, sees the future, and he says, we're about to go into a war. It's about to be a really dark time. And it's basically the what was revealed to him was, the way that you will win is by conducting yourself in a noble manner during this war, during this dark time. So if you do it in the right way, then you will, that righteous moral action will be a seed that is left on the earth that will act as a force that will eliminate evil in the distant future. And so I just thought that was like, wow, pretty profound. Yeah. Like, okay, we're about to go into this heinous situation where giants and gods are going to kill each other. And if you don't, you know, let it overtake you and become like this savage, you know, dark creature, then that in and of itself, no matter what happens, is going to make the good win out.
And what a timely message that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So let's talk about yoga practices, like current yoga practices, and how can one apply tools of cosmology? You mentioned meditating on some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other tools you recommend?
Oh yeah, I was thinking about this, and one practice you can do is stargazing. Like just go out in the night sky. I know it's not like technically a yoga practice, but going out and looking up at the night sky and imagine that like you're seeing that, but imagine that you're also being seen by that.
Oh.
That's an interesting one to do, you know. And it's also interesting because, you know, the night sky, we used to have a way more profound relationship with the night sky before artificial light. So if you live in the city, it's harder to see the stars in the night sky. You don't get to see as many. And that's kind of a metaphor for the disconnect that our technology has, you know, created between us and the cosmos out there, you know.
Yeah.
So, but stargazing is one thing that you can do. And um, in terms of just the physical practice, it really has to do with I think that if you can remember those zodiac points on your body, and you relate to the zodiac energy through study, and then you experience the physicalize, like you amplify the sensation around that part of the body as a means of amplifying the energy associated with the qualities of that zodiac sign. That's a way that you can do it if you want to get real weird.
I like it.
Well, you know, or you can just keep practicing how you're practicing, and let that, you know, because your practice itself gives you the capacity to pay attention and to know more. And so you can just take that gift of your practice, which is the ability to come into a deeper state of concentration, and then apply that to studies off the mat, and then have it be like these things that feed each other. And it'll be a process, you know, because it's not like overnight you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm embodying the zodiac, and you know,
Yeah.
like what does that even mean? So it takes a while to marinate on these things, and you know, yeah, physicalize them. But anytime you physicalize a quality that's associated with the zodiac, and if you're conscious of that relationship, that'll take you deeper down the path in that way. Let me think if there's any other practices. In that book that I recommended, there are specific physical practices associated with each zodiac, and they're kind of zany, but but
Yeah.
you know, might be worth checking out. um
Well, I like what you said about just keeping your yoga practice, because I think last time when you were on Yoga and Symbolism, it was about like lifting a veil, like your awareness is heightened. So you can start to pick up on, you know, the planets, the zodiac. It's more present, things like that, crystals, holding crystals.
yeah, and just like another good way to use your practice to help you just relate to this idea of the microcosm and macrocosm, human
Mhm.
being as a microcosm for the universe, is through the process of like creating a yoga pose. If you do it in a real detailed way, you know, you're putting together these little aspects of each part of your body in an intentional way to form this unitive whole. And so in the creation process, you feel all the little pieces, and then once you've made the shape, you kind of feel it as a harmonious whole. And that's the way that you relate, like, you know, the detailed specific aspects to the larger or unitive
Mm.
macrocosm.
Is that why alignment-based yoga speaks to you the most, or that like you
And
primarily?
I would say that it's that it, because I went into it, I wasn't like, oh, I like relating microcosm to macrocosm, so I'm going to do alignment-based yoga. It was actually like, wow, this alignment-based yoga feels really valuable, and like getting to connect intimately with my big toe ball mount and my pinky toe, and like, and just being like relating consciously to those specific parts of the body, and then ending up with this pose that I'm actually like deeper in than I could have gotten into otherwise. And I know how to go deeper in it based on certain specific actions. And so I think it was the influence of that system that inspired me to even want to look deeper into these things. So I think I was sort of like like I didn't know what it was doing, but
Yeah.
this was like an effect. Being inspired by cosmology and all that was like an effect of that practice.
Very cool. And it sounds like it just keeps evolving. Like you started with one reason to do yoga, and then it's just kept evolving into other things. Is there anything that you're curious about these days? And it could be related to yoga or not, but what are you curious about?
I'm curious about being the best way to communicate with people and have it not be understood, or I mean have it be understood, have it not be misunderstood. Because I'm interested in relating to people and having like deeper conversations, and moving above kind of the more instinctual tribal kind of vibes that are, yeah, that are becoming more and more prominent. I think that, and that you see in like the communication online. I want to be able to reach people and yeah, like be understood, and I want to understand them, and I'm interested in communication and the best ways to do that. I am really curious about the best ways to educate children,
Mm,
because I'm not sure that we're on the right track with that.
yeah.
My understanding is like the morning sunlight is so valuable.
Mm,
And if you're a kid and you have a lot of energy, like these kids should probably be starting the day from like 8 to 10 a.m. playing outside, getting their energy out, and getting the rays of the sun on their body. And
yeah.
then you come inside, you're ready to, maybe eat a little something, pay attention, take a lesson in. But yeah, so I'm interested in education, um, yeah, and yeah, just the future.
Hmm.
Curious about the future because I want it to be good because I have
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah. So how do you reset personally?
I like to read. Honestly, I find that sleep is like a really good natural reset, and
Uh-huh.
and so in order for it to be a really good reset, it has to be good sleep. And so having like a pre bedtime ritual that makes sleep really good is important, and it has been helpful for me. And a lot of it entails not drinking as much alcohol. I haven't been drinking very much. Yeah, just finding ways to help me get good sleep. That's a good way to reset. I also like reading, meditating.
They're all good suggestions. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, definitely, yeah, spending time away from the phone. But
Oh,
then there's also that reset time where like, okay, I've been working all day, I've been doing the work, and I'm gonna lay down and relax, and I'm gonna like consciously scroll and not get too wrapped up. And then I'm gonna pause and stop doing that before I go to bed for a while, so that
uh-huh.
those impressions aren't like fresh in my mind as I'm going to bed. Like I'm not saying never engage on social media, because I would be hypocritical, because I do that. and
Mhm.
and but I've been trying to do it more consciously and try to approach it with a higher vibration, not have my vibration be drawn down by whatever content I'm taking in.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I notice I'll watch TV while doing social media, like two
Mm,
things at once, and I've had to learn to just, I think yeah, having limitations and distance, like yeah, not have it so close to bed that you're dreaming about social media posts.
right, exactly. Yeah, and I feel you on the two screen thing. That's intense. And when I was playing online poker, when that was like my meaning system was oriented around poker, and
Mhm.
I would sometimes play 50 games at a time. And so it was like screen. I know it's not, but it was like phenomenal decision to make. Do it, go, 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 go. And it was
Wow.
like I would sometimes play, 15 to 20 games, and then I would also be surfing the internet, and then I would play FIFA on Xbox Live, and it was like my mind needed this stimulation, and yeah, yoga enabled me to kind of get away from that, and then to realize like, whoa, I am not even a human at that point. I'm just
Yeah.
compelled by my digital environment. So
Yeah, yeah. And I love social media also because I learned so much about like what's happening in the world. And, I have friends who own their own businesses, and it's just, like you
get
can
to
just,
support, get to
no,
meet.
it is a form of information that it's like to miss out on. Like I would like to, like I find out new podcasts, I find out, new classes, like all kinds of stuff. And so it's like, it's a shame to like not partake.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
Speaking of social media,
Yeah.
people can find me on Instagram. My name on there is Raise Awareness. I also do the Practice Yoga Austin Instagram, and I'm not on there as much. So you could also find me at Practice Yoga Austin Studio Wednesdays at noon. And yeah, I'm down. I love the in-person stuff, and I'm a lead teacher in the 200-hour training that we have coming up in September, and I'm about to announce that, in the coming days, and it'll probably be announced by the time this podcast airs. But love to have you in that. I love connecting with people and like to have long form discussions so that we can go deeper on things, because we have to develop kind of a shared language, which yoga does. That gives that to you, a physicalized language. Yeah, so that's where they can find me.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being back on the show, and I hope to have you back again sometime soon.
Thanks for having me on. I look forward to coming back soon.
I hope you enjoyed this two-part series on yoga and cosmology with the knowledgeable Rey Cardenas. Do yourself a favor and connect with Rey. All of his info is in the show notes, so you're just one click away from connecting with him, as well as all of Practice Yoga Austin's infos in the show notes. Connect with that studio as well. It's awesome. If you liked what you heard, please share the show with your friends. And if you would like us to keep going, please hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Yoga and Podcast. Did you know we have an official Yoga and Podcast Patreon? For as low as the price of 1 cup of coffee per month, you can support the show, and their great member perks for you as well. We send you podcast stickers and a love note in the mail when you sign up. You have access to exclusive yin yoga and kitty cat classes only for patrons, and there's more. To find out more info and to sign up, go to patreon.com/yoga and podcast. Please leave us a glowing 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and a big thank you in advance for that. If you have any questions or comments or would like to apply to be a guest on the show, please email us at yogaandpodcast@gmail.com. The and is spelled out YOGAAND podcast@gmail. The theme song is performed by the talented Allie Holder. Sound engineering and mixing by the adorable Bentley the cat. Guest booking and social media by the cuddly Chloe the kitty. Remember that this podcast is for absolutely everyone. If you are a human living on planet Earth, you might benefit from listening to every episode of Yoga and Podcast. See you next week.